Hey guys, welcome back to another Zanexi IGCSE Biology video. So today it's gonna be chapter 11, gas exchange in humans, plus a removed section of this topic, which is smoking and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay. First one, we're going to recap back about respiration is that chemical reactions that break down nutrients in living cells to release energy, and those below are the energy uses of respiration. The next one is again a recap about difference between the aerobic and anaerobic respiration because it really links to this topic today we are learning. And aerobic respiration uses oxygen and anaerobic doesn't use oxygen, and then what it produces out for aerobic is no alcohol lactic acid, and anaerobic is alcohol in plants and lactic acid in animals, and then aerobic usually has more energy being released than anaerobic. Okay. So the first thing, we are just gonna recap a lot of things from transport in animals, especially because the lungs and the heart are sometimes working in pairs together because the heart requires to pump blood into our lungs. Okay, so again, everything that it diffuses is in the alveolus of the lungs, therefore it diffuses oxygen. So one gas is entering and the other is leaving. Okay. So this is the human breathing system, or our lung system especially, and you must remember not everything, some. Okay, but I will let you know which one you need to remember. The first one is definitely the larynx, is your voice box where you talk. And the trachea is basically this long thing that helps to transport your air particles, your oxygen especially. And cartilage, yes, you need to know the function of the cartilage. The left lung is always here, not the right lung. Same thing as the heart. The right lung is here, and you have to remember the bronchus, where it's been separated into two sides, and the heart is usually in the inside of our lungs, and the diaphragm is the bottom. So it usually will contracts and relaxes. And you have to remember the alveoli, the small bubble sacs in your lungs. The bronchiole is basically the whole tube, the whole branch basically. You don't have to remember the pleural fluid, the pleural membrane. You remember the rib cross section, and also the external and the internal costal muscles. Okay, so this is what you should know except for the pleural membrane and the pleural fluids. Okay. Pathway to the lungs. Everything starts from the nose to the mouth. So again, what it always links to the lung is the cilia, the ciliated cells. They are the specialized cells that we learned in chapter 1. So the cilia just beats left and right, and it produces mucus from the goblet cell. So the cilia is to move particles away from our throat. So this is the reason why it's so important that we produce mucus in order we can move the foreign particles away to the stomach. Okay. So the features and what do they do? So the larynx, the air passes through the larynx and down to the trachea. The trachea is also known as the windpipe also. So where the cartilage inside there is extending to the bronchi. The lung, of course, is the main organ that it has exchanges of gas happening, and bronchiole is basically a thin wall branch of bronchus. So bronchus is basically the branch, basically one of the two primary divisions that the trachea that leads to the lungs, and the alveoli is basically the small air sacs, those bubbles that are usually called, and then they do gas exchange inside there. Okay, what is the function of the cartilage in the trachea? This came out in one of our exams. So it provides support and flexibility. Okay, the next one is adaptation of the alveoli. So first thing, it's thin. It's one cell thing, which it allows quick gas diffusion between oxygen and carbon dioxide, and it's moist to allow the gas to dissolve well in our lungs, and its large surface area increases its efficiency and also the smoothness of gas exchange happening, and it gives you a very good supply of oxygen into the lungs, therefore you can breathe. Okay, so this is inside the cross section of our bronchiole and the alveolus. So if you can see, there are capillaries around the alveoli, therefore it diffuses with oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Okay, so That's where the air comes in, and then they do gas exchange inside the alveolus. Okay, so this is the, again, similar thing inside the alveolus. So there are cell wall in our cell in wall of capillary, not cell wall, and then cell in wall of the alveolus, the white blood cell which can destroy bacteria. You learn this in diseases and immunity in chapter 10. And airspace in alveolus, the red blood cells that circulate around, remember, for hemoglobin, because once, how do they achieve the oxygen is from our lungs, therefore it changes into oxyhemoglobin. Okay, so therefore inside here, it's where the air moves in and out, and then the blood cells just change the oxygenated blood into deoxygenated blood. They remove the deoxygenated blood out of our body. Okay, and this is also another picture of how red blood cells are traveling, and then the air moves in and out, exchanging oxygen with carbon dioxide. Okay, so again, this is the whole process of how it comes from oxygen-rich air from the environment into our nasal, means our nose. The pharynx is basically you can say it's the larynx also, and the trachea, and our bronchi, the bronchioles, and our alveoli, and then they do gas exchange in the alveoli, therefore it releases out to the bronchioles, the bronchi, the trachea, the pharynx or the larynx again to our nose, and back with carbon dioxide out to the environment. Okay, the next one is breathing in, which is inspiration, and breathing out, expiration as we call it. So inspiration is basically where we breathe in, we inhale oxygen, and expiration is where we inhale out oxygen. So the first features that you would see in inspiration again is that the diaphragm is lowered. You have to remember this, and the external intercostal muscle contracts. The rib cage is raised because you see your motion when you breathe, everything just lifts up, and then the volume of the thorax increases because they want more oxygen to come in, and so the air can be drawn from the lungs. And once expiration, the diaphragm springs up. Okay, the rib cage is lower because you're exhaling, you're releasing out oxygen, and the volume of the thorax decreases because your carbon dioxide is out already from the body. Okay, and your external intercostal muscle relaxes. Okay. Breathing in, inhalation, and breathing out, exhalation. So intercostal muscles, when you're inhaling, is always contracts, and exhaling is always relaxed. Your ribs are always up when you're inhaling, and exhale is down. Your diaphragm muscle will contract and it relaxes when you exhale out. Your diaphragm lowers down, not the muscle, so there's something different. And the diaphragm will be raised up again. The volume of the chest increases definitely, and decreases once you exhale out. This one is the next. The pressure inside the chest decreases at first and increases out, and the air pressure is lower than the atmospheric pressure. Okay, and it greatest when you exhale out. Air rushes in, and once exhale, it goes out from the lungs. So again, another brief thing is the internal coastal muscle relaxes and the external coastal muscle contracts, pulling the rib cage upwards and outwards. So diaphragm is contract and pulling it downwards. So your lung volume increases and the air pressure inside decreases, and air is pushed into the lungs. The external intercostal muscles relaxes, and your internal intercostal muscle contracts, pulling the rib cage downwards and inwards. So the diaphragm relaxes, moving back upwards. Lung volume decreases and the air pressure increases. Air is pushed out from the lungs. See, you must remember this really solid, because they will ask you for steps and you know how to describe how it actually works. Okay, so this is again another cross section of the rib cage and the intercostal muscle. You don't really have to know this, but you can have a look at this. Alright, and one of it, the good representation of this, is the bell jar model. Your class teacher will always show you this in any one of your bio lessons, and you can see it looks like it. So the white tube is always the trachea and bronchi, where your air is going in and out, and your bell jar is your chest cavity, your balloons are your lungs, your sheath are your diaphragms. Okay, so again, the difference between respiration, gas exchange, and breathing. So again, a series of chemical reactions which happen in all living cells is surely respiration, because you're breaking down. And exchanges of gas is surely gas exchange, because oxygen is taken into the body and carbon dioxide is removed. And one last thing is breathing is your muscular movements are up, which is breathing, definitely. Okay. So another thing about this one is your how much of volume of air is being taken in. Alright, so inspired air, there are always more oxygen than your expired air. And your carbon dioxide is surely very little, it's said to be. So that's why 21% of it is inspired air. I have to remember every figure of this, yeah. So carbon dioxide is 0.04% and your expired air is 4% because you're releasing out carbon dioxide. Noble gases or any other gases in your air is always 1% or less. Okay, your water content humidity is variable, expired air is always high. Your temperature is variable, expired air is always warm. Why? Because carbon dioxide. In chemistry, you have learned about carbon dioxide increases temperature of something. This is how you link. Okay, so this is the reason for the difference. You can have a look, but you must remember the figures 21, 16, 0.04 and 4%. Others, you just have to make sure it makes sense to you. Okay, so exercise and breathing rate, this is again from back to anaerobic respiration, is where the incomplete breakdown of glucose, because you are very tired, not enough of oxygen, it produces lactic acid, very little energy being produced. Then after that you have oxygen debt. I have mentioned this about in the respiration video, you can have a look again. And here are the rest and exercise. Rest, where once you are rest, you are basically paying back your oxygen to your body. So one of the actions that signifies oxygen that is being occurred is through panting, because panting allows you to break down that lactic acid. So the increased heart rate is carried to the blood and to the liver, where it's broken down using aerobic respiration. It changes. You cannot anaerobic respiration your lactic acid in your lungs. It will produce even more, therefore it's toxic. Okay, so alright, now we are entering to the second section of it, where this is basically removed somehow from the syllabus, but again it's extra information that you should know. Alright, so first thing, it's smoking, surely. Okay, first hand, second hand and third hand smoke. First hand is where the person primarily smokes, the second hand is where it's being spread to other people, and third hand doesn't really make sense, but it does occur. Okay, so one thing tobacco smoking that really affects of this is nicotine. Why? Because it's addictive. So therefore it's like a stimulant that increases your brain's neurons to work much faster, increase alertness definitely. Then nicotine causes your blood vessels to get narrow, which may lead to hypertension or vasoconstrictor. Okay, and tar is basically a carcinogen. Alright. Okay, anything that combines in your tobacco, it has carbon monoxide, CO, okay, which combines with hemoglobin, and therefore it really deprives the oxygen inside your body cells and really can affect someone when it's pregnant. Okay, smoke particles are tiny carbon particles that get trapped inside in our lungs. So one thing that really links to this disease is COPD. One is removed from the syllabus, but you can know this of this. So where it has a excess secretion of mucus and inflammation in your bronchitis. Okay, so the alveoli surface area for gas exchange is reduced due to breakdown of your alveoli membrane, which is severe. Therefore, you have struggling breathing in at one point. Okay, so this is definitely one. So chronic bronchitis, your healthy lungs are in perfect shape, but look at inflammation, it looks narrower, therefore it tightens your breathing and a lot of mucus are being made, therefore you cough a lot, okay, because of a blockage in your lungs. And emphysema is where healthy, it looks like this, and then alveolar membrane breakdown, it just becomes much bold in color. Okay, so again, recap about everything about this. So carbon monoxide, which is the oxygen carrying capacity of the bird, and then tar causes lung cancer and many other kinds of cancer. Nicotine is addictive, therefore smokers keep on smoking every time because of the nicotine. It's a drug. Okay, so normal airways and the airway of a smoker, they produce a lot of mucus because they have to move the mucus away from the lungs, therefore they still can breathe properly. This is a mechanism of how the body cleans our lungs basically. Okay, So smoking and heart disease definitely gets thicker and harder. Therefore, it can link to coronary heart disease where maybe it's too constricted. Therefore, one, it links its high blood pressure, and yes, you see blood clot in coronary arteries. It links to that straight away. Okay, so yeah, remember coronary arteries in your transport in animals where you eat too much of kind of like fatty items. Therefore, the fat deposits are already too much in your arteries. Therefore, it blocks. Okay, then you have to do all the stenting, all those in order to make sure that it backs to normal. So that's all for chapter 11. It's a lot of info. So first thing you must remember is surely your parts of your lungs, and you have to remember the features of inspiration and expiration happening, and you also have to remember the percentage of you breathing 21, 16, 0.04 and 4%, and whether it's variable in humidity, temperatures, and a lot of other things. So you must remember this really well, and all the smoking others not important. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you guys again in the next video. See you, bye bye.